prior to this around, I'm not sure if it's a very small niche part, but around discussions and debates around whether Lebanon is part of the Messianic mission as well. There's been a lot of articles going around on Jerusalem Post. Do you have any idea around the size of that Messianic belief and whether that may start to play into the current situation in Lebanon?
The religious right in Israel, which mostly vote for Ben Gvir and Smotrich, by themselves, only very small part of them is so extreme as to even discuss what your suggestion. And so I think this whole movement of talking about settlements in Lebanon, it's the fringe of the fringe of the fringe. Nobody in Israel in his right mind would try to think about anything like this. The border between Israel and Lebanon is very clearly marked. Israel has returned to this border in 2000, and I have no doubt that only security issues will affect whether Israel crossed this border for security reasons, and eventually it will want to return to this border because we don't have any conflict with Lebanon.
Do you have any idea if Ben Gvir believes in it, though?
I don't care. And I don't think that
we need to care, right? He's a leader of Israel.
You can care because for you, I know, Simon, you take the most extreme people and then you try to project.
That's not attack.
Well, he's a leader, right? He's got a top leadership role. We should care.
Simon, I'm not in a cross-examination. I told you.
No, I just wanted the answer. You said you did.
I have. I told you. I don't care about Ben Gvir. He's a fringe. The people who are talking about settling in Lebanon are fringe of the fringe of the fringe. There is absolutely zero chance this ever happening. What we should be discussing right now is a major event that happened in the Middle East. Nasrallah is gone. We are 48 hours after it. This is a 1 in a 50 years event that will create aftershocks after aftershocks in the whole Middle East. And one of my hopes is that it will bring peace between Israel and Lebanon, something that I think we all can agree would be to the benefit of those two people.
Do you mind if I come up and ask a question? And anybody on the panel would be able to answer this, which would be, we've talked a lot about what Israel's goals are going to be up over inside of Lebanon. My question really, and if anybody can answer this honestly, is what are the goals of Hezbollah and Iran inside of Lebanon?
Goals of who? Sorry, I didn't.
Hezbollah and the IRGC, what are their goals inside of Lebanon?
Well, the stated goal of Hezbollah is that they want self-determination for Palestinians. Whether you believe that or not is another thing, but that's a stated goal.
Correct. But
we can talk about the actual goal. The actual goal of Iran. I'll be very quick.
For sure.
The actual goal of Iran for the last almost 40 years have been eventually to dismantle Israel completely. And that's why it surrounded Israel with a lot of proxy players that are supposed within 20 years to bring Israel demise. But now I think that this whole project is finally starting to crumble.
Yeah, to put that in another word, Hezbollah believes in a one-state solution and Hamas believes in a two-state solution as per their charters.
Well, that's not entirely true now, because if we were to read over Hamas's charter, it states several times that the land of Palestine, which they clearly define from the river to the sea, all-encompassing of Israel, should be an Arab Islamic land. They do state, and I believe it's paragraph 23 or 24, that they would accept pre-67 borders as a temporary solution. But there is nothing that suggests that they believe in a one or a two-state solution altogether. They believe wholeheartedly any one-state solution. So if we're going to be honest, I ask for intellectual honesty. Let's be intellectually honest. But the majority of Hamas's charter does talk about decimating Israel and turning it into an Arab Islamic land, and that it's their divine right in order to do so.
Sorry, yeah, but you can add the word decimated to make it sound dishonest, but a one-state solution.
Let's go.
But my understanding is they last time I read it, and I'll have to read it again, it was the 67 border, which is a two-state solution.
That's what they came out after the conflict. But I just wanna.
No, that was in 2017.
They went publicly about that. After that, they started changing, yes, but they did not completely evolve. But I want to go to Jacinthe. She's on the ground right now. She has a couple of minutes to give us. So she's in Lebanon and Dubai region, reporting on the entirety of the conflict, the situation, and what's happening. So hello, how are you doing today? And tell us more about the last 24 hours.
Hello again, James. I'm around Dahye and not Dubai. And as you know, the Dahye is like the Beirut stronghold for the Lebanese party Hezbollah. And of course, it has large auditoria in Har Tahrik, in Hadath, in Mount Lebanon, in Burj al-Barajni, and elsewhere. And as we know that Hassan Nasrallah was killed in Har Tahrik in Dahye, the region in Beirut. Yani, Dahye is around Beirut. As you know, that especially Dahye during the past days has really lived many bad days, and especially Israeli strikes last Saturday morning, and I was covering that night the news from 12 a.m. till 6 a.m. More than 50 strikes were conducted on Dahye, this area of Beirut, and 100 of people were injured, and of course 100 were killed. Today, what was happening in Lebanon, I want to start first with Dahye. Today around 2:30 p.m. the IDF conducted a precise strike in the Dahye area of Beirut, and they said that they were targeting one of the Hezbollah leaders, which name is Abu Ali Rida. And then the Hezbollah party has said that he was not killed, and he's in a good health, and he's in a safe place. So this was the only strike today on Dahye, and it was different from the last days where there were civil strikes and people has flee from Dahye and has left this area of Beirut, and they are really most of them living on the road in Beirut, as I said yesterday, and that's it. However, the military aircraft and also the drones, the reconnaissance drones, has never left the place. They were always skimming the Dahye region and all the region around. They really did not leave Beirut always, and we can hear the drones sound very clear from the place I am, especially here near Dahye, in Hazmiya and in Ba'abda and the other regions where we can clearly see the Dahye from up down. In addition to what was happening in Beirut, and of course everyone شوفوا هاي شو هونيك آدم
لك يا علي
علي شو هي
علي.
Sorry, she's actually on the ground, guys. So
I'm here. I saw something in the maybe missiles or something like this. Sorry. Okay, so I want to continue.
I'll just ask for one question if you have to go. There has been reports that strikes happened near the airport in Shuaifat region.
True. Okay, so there was many strikes around the airport, and especially in Shuaifat, which is far 2 kilometers from the airport. However, the airport is still working, and there are many flights from Lebanon and to Lebanon, and only just the Middle East. The Middle East is operating. The Middle East, which is like the only airplanes are still operating in Beirut, and we can clearly from the region I'm here around, we can clearly see that the airport is working as usual. Of course, there are no planes other than the Middle East, and today we saw like 2 airplanes that are from the we can say that they are military airplanes that came to Lebanon. One was from the side of
En Carmel, Neve Yam, Atlit, En Hod, Yamin Ord Youth Village, near Etzion, Yarot HaCarmel, Megadim, Bet Tzvi, Givat Wolfson, Bet Oren, Damon Present, Achotrim, Tirat Carmel, Kfar Galim, Haifa, Neve Sha'anan and Ramot Carmel, Haifa West, near Etzion Industrial Zone, Achziv Miluot Industrial Zone, Liman, Haifa, Carmel and Lower City, Kiryat Ata, Ramat Yochanan, Shafram, Usha, Haifa, Bay and Krayot, Kiryat Bialik, Far Bialik, Iblin, Kiryat Motzkin, Kiryat Yam, Afek, Mitzpeh Aviv, Tamra, Kabul, Sha'ar Naaman Industrial Zone, Far Masarik, Akko Industrial Zone, Sha'ab, En Hamifrat, Yasur, Achigud, Barlev Industrial Zone, Tzurit, Gilon, Akko, Jadede Makar, Majdal Krum, Tal El, Pelech, Tuval, Julis, Bustan Hagalil, Shomrat, Kfar Yasif, Yirka, Lochamei Hagetaot, Abu Sanan, Regba, Nes Amim, Beta Emek, Oshrat, Shavet Zion, Mazra, Amka, Khalil, Naharia, Evron, Netiv HaShayara, Sheikh Danun, Yechiam, Ben Ami, Gaton, Kabri, Sa'ar, Gesher Haziv, Neve Ziv, Haifa, Kiryat Chaim, and Kiryat Shmuel.
And they are threatening them of they will target their village or they will target their houses. And I can guarantee that most of these people are just civilians, and there are like no Hezbollah activities near them. In general, this is the situation in Lebanon. It's really horrific. People are like staying in the roads. There are no clear ideas of what's gonna happen in the few days. But what I can say that it's not far to have an invasion, especially in some villages in the south. And my friend, which he is reporting from there, he can say that they feel this. I was reporting in the south last week, especially I came back to Beirut on Wednesday, and really the situation was very bad, even though we were at some points we were targeted, because I can say that the strikes were in a way or another really not precise, and bombing different places and different civilian places. Unfortunately, that's the situation in Lebanon. On tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday, everything will be closed because of the death of Hassan Nasrallah. And really, everywhere in Lebanon is horrific, even though the north villages, which are receiving many of the people that left Dahya and Bekaa and south, really there's a lot of people, 100,000 of people living there in a miserable situation. And that's everything. I'm sorry, I've talked a lot and quickly, but because I have to leave the place I'm staying in.
Just be safe, as we said yesterday. Thank you for reporting every day the sentiment of the Lebanese media and the Lebanese people on the actual ground. That's what we need to also bring up, and to always bring the updates for our listeners from the ground.
Thank you. And I want to add something, James, that concerning Safiuddin, who may be the one holding or the one ruling the Hezbollah. It's not officially yet. It's not an official thing yet. Okay. Thank you so much.
I want to add one last question question. Are we sure that the Genes of Hassan Nasrallah?
No. It's not. No. It's not. It's not sure. I think the Arabiya TV channel have broadcasted this, but what I can guarantee that many as I can see during the last days, that many of these information are false, and Arabiya is posting them. Unfortunately, I don't know why. Also, it is a very well-known media channel, and I really respect them. But sometimes it happens that we broadcast not 100% sure information, but it's not true that tomorrow is the funeral of Hassan Nasrallah. I don't know when, but and also I want to tell you something that today they told or today they broadcasted that that Hassan Nasrallah's body was removed. No, it was yesterday removed from the place, and it's still the same. That means that he was not injured or else. He was dead, I think, and as the reports has said, out of the, I don't know how to say, ضغط, if you can explain. Pressure, sorry, I forgot the word. It's he was dead because of the pressure, as Mani has reported there. Okay, that's everything in general, and I will try to report everything that's happening.
New information
daily.
Please send them by DM if you have information live, and if you want to come up, you're always welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, James.
Bye-bye. So here you go. That's a report from the ground. I want to rotate a bit to Matt, different point of view. Sorry she couldn't stay longer if you wanted to ask her question, but we're getting that report from the ground.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I did want to ask her a question because she stated with 100% guarantee, which would mean absolute certainty, that every target that the IDF has struck or the Israeli Air Force struck inside Lebanon were civilian targets, that they weren't actually going after Hezbollah. Now, if that's the case, then she would have to know 100% of the positions of Hezbollah inside of Lebanon. And as a journalist, I highly doubt she has access to that information. And if she does, I would have questions about what her motivations are for coming in and saying that. That's the only thing I wanted to ask her, and that's the statement I'm going to make on that.
That's a general ideology of the media. So anyone in the media would tell you that those regions or those areas are packed with civilians. I can confirm it too from my side because I'm Lebanese. Those people that live there would not know if there is Hezbollah people around them or even rockets inside.
So how would she know?
It's a general media statement that is being said, and that's how it's being reported.
So to be clear, though, it's not a fact, because it's being stated as is a fact. And if we're going to state things as facts,
we're taking it as from the perspective of the Lebanese media, and I caveated this at the beginning. She's part of the Lebanese media. She's part of that work. The same way you get someone from the BBC to say something, or someone from Fox to say something different, or someone from different journalists will say different things, or caveat the things in a different way. That's how the Lebanese media works. So they will say that most of the people that are dead are civilians. We can then debate those points between us and get a more reliable information. And I can tell you that I can't guarantee at 100%.
Media channel. Excuse me. This isn't a Lebanese media channel, though. This is supposed to be a fact-based informational panel. And so if we're going to have people come up and speak on this panel and speak, their personal perspectives, we can't have them say it's 100% guarantee and not push back and question that. That goes against intellectual honesty.
That you can do. That you can do, and I allow you to do it. You're allowed to do it. I'm just caveating that she's Lebanese news.
No, what you did was you backed her up and you said that that's what she knows and that's what the people know and that's how they're able to guarantee it. That's an opinion. Because the fact is, if you know where all the Hezbollah positions are, then you are not telling the full truth, and you better come clean with that. Because the fact is, like you said, these people don't know. So even with your own statement, co-host, even within your own statement, you admitted they don't know where all the Hezbollah positions are. So you can't state within 100% certainty.
And I did say that after you asked the question, and I'm responding for the audience. Her statement is what the Lebanese media is saying. It's not 100% true, and it's not caveated. We can't confirm that it's 100% civilian. So we can't confirm that the Israeli are just hitting civilian areas, and I've been very clear about that since the beginning. Point number one, Ayal, I want to talk to you about what's happening in Haifa right now. We're seeing big alerts. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm probably in the safest place in Israel. I just wanted to say one more thing about the Lebanese journalist. She also said that the strikes were not precise. So she must know what was the target and how they missed it. And for some reason, we are seeing all those secondary explosion in many cases, which obviously hit the right target. But in her mind, everything is civilian and there is no Hezbollah rocket anywhere. I would agree to one thing. We're not hitting his military target. Everything that we're hitting is not a Lebanese government site. We're hitting where Hezbollah was hitting their rockets and assets. And we are very careful, actually, not to jeopardize any Lebanese government site, including military site of the Lebanese government.
Yeah, sure. It's very important to caveat that point too. So I want to welcome Coach on the stage. Also, Coach, you heard the intervention. If you can, first time also on stage, if you can introduce yourself quickly and then tell us what's your opinion about what's happening and the evolvement since the death of Hassan Nasrallah, and what's the next steps you think for the Middle East in the region.
Hi guys, thank you very much for having me up, first and foremost. I'm Coach. I've actually spent more of my time doing this on TikTok. I host TikTok panels about the subject. I've lived in Israel for a good portion of my life, spent about 7 years on and off there, tried becoming an IDF soldier, but got turned away due to health issues. And now I currently reside in the U.S., but this has been a major area of focus of my life and one of my degrees actually in college. But as far as this goes, I think what we've seen happen happen within the borders of Lebanon for, at the very least, the last 2 weeks, I think Israel is in a very interesting position, one which they may have been in last in 2006 to completely decimate Hezbollah. And I think that's probably what we're going to see. I think the U.S. interrupted and stepped in with the United Nations to prevent Israel from being able to do this their first time around. I don't think Israel will have this happen a second time and let that chance a second time go squandered.
That means that there's going to be complete decimation of Beirut, which is almost all of Lebanon. Would you agree to that?
I like to think that they can do this in a much more targeted way, the same way that we've seen it happen in Gaza and other areas. I don't think you'll have to see that destruction, but I also think that that is going to lie squarely at the hands of Hezbollah, whoever they announce as their new leader, if they decide to tick things up a bit and, if they decide to increase their aims back and their strikes back, and we see more rockets being fired, more artillery being fired indiscriminately into Israel, I think you're going to unfortunately see that type of destruction.
Don't you think?
And I don't think Israel has a chance, has a choice.
Don't you think it would be easier for Israel to work on self-determination for Palestinian people, which is the stated goal of Hezbollah? They've obviously voted against doing that in Parliament this year. America's veto voted against a solution every single year while they pretend that they're doing something. So can we just be intellectually honest here and state that the issue here is that Israel won't give self-determination to Palestine, and that's the Hezbollah stated goal. That's why we're here.
If you think that's Hezbollah's stated goal, that's one thing. I tend to disagree with you. I think their stated goal is an Iranian proxy is one thing. I think their actual goal as an Iranian proxy is to help secure Iran's ambitions of a Islamic caliphate throughout the region. They're just
Well, yeah, I
using
mean, obviously
Hezbollah as
the BBC, Fox News,
Again,
they'll tell us that's the
Simon, he's
stated
giving
goal.
he's giving you the perspective of someone in Israel giving their opinion about how they are seeing it. You're going on and on about the same thing every time again does not help the discussion. We understand that the stated goal of Hezbollah is to in defense of the Palestinian cause. At the same time, he's giving you the other perspective. The question is loaded and doesn't make sense. Again,
can I add a
sure, Joe.
perspective here,
Sure.
James? Because Matt had asked the question, what do you think Hamas and Hezbollah's mission is? And earlier he had stated, if someone was putting a gun in you and you knew they wanted to shoot you, wouldn't you shoot them first? And I agree with that 100%. So here's the thing. If you look at the Likud's manifesto in the Jewish Virtual Library, you will see the statement about from the river to the sea and how all that land is theirs, including Judea and Samaria. If you look at the Torah, it also states that Lebanon is theirs and that all of Israel and Palestine is theirs and many other territories. So is this not, if you apply the same standard, Matt, is this not the same thing? Someone's saying they're going to wipe you out and you come back and say the same thing to them.
Can I add as well? I talked about Ben Gvir before. He's the security minister of the country. He's leading the settlements into the West Bank. This is not just someone you shouldn't be talking about. This is somebody that's actually doing the illegal settlements right now and a very powerful position within the Israeli government. And if he believes in that Messianic vision around Lebanon, then why should we not believe him?
Yeah, and just to add to the timeline, Likud's manifesto was made in 1977, years and years before Hamas.
Matt, do you want to take this one, or Coach, whomever wants to take that?
Can I answer?
I mean, either way is fine. I don't mind either way. I don't mind giving up some speaking time, but I will make mine short to allow Coach a little bit more time. So if we're going to go all the way back to that manifesto, I'd reference a press release from 1985 from Hezbollah, who says one of their stated goals is actually taking over Israel. And I don't have it pulled up in front of me, so I can't give you a direct quote, but it is out there and you can go research this on your own. So that's one of Hezbollah's goals. We can also look over at Iran and some of the things that they've been saying. Excuse me, sir, I didn't interrupt you. Sir, excuse me, I didn't interrupt you.
Sorry, Matt. I have to cut the thing out. So there is reports of a direct hit into. I'm really sorry, but that's breaking. So a direct hit from surface to surface ballistic missiles that got sent from Lebanon towards the Haifa region, and that was So there was an apparently the widespread alarms that we get, extensive alarm come from interception attempts, and that it landed in an area of Haifa. Is someone, Ayal, while you are in Israel, could you talk to us about a possibility of a strike from a surface-to-surface ballistic missile coming from Lebanon? What do you think are the probability that it could have actually hit an area in Haifa? We know that the way the alerts come is because of the interception. We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I finish my statement before we go over the...
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so just to go against it, and again, sir, look, I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but this is why I talk about having intellectually honesty on both sides, so that I can come out and I can actually make statements like this that I'm about to. Sure, we can go back and we can look at the Torah and we could look at several other religious texts to try to justify what is currently taking place in order for self-defense. Fact remains, however, that one side has been active in a major defensive manner, and we could look at David's sling and we can look at, the Iron Dome as two prime examples of that. Okay, so actions versus words have more meaning. Okay, and when we look at what the amount of infrastructure that's been built up by Hezbollah and Hamas, it hasn't been defensive in nature; it's actually been offensive in nature. So when we look at actions versus just words, we can easily go and we can say that the actions over words, the actions of one group versus the other, is that it points to an offensive maneuver by Hezbollah and Hamas and a defensive maneuver by Israel. And I can state that openly and honestly as I've been able to sit here and talk about the West Bank, and I've been able to talk about, what's taking place inside Gaza, and I've been able to talk about, even my own government critically. And so I want you to be able, again, everybody do your own independent research and draw your own conclusion. I'm not looking for a tit-for-tat back and forth argument. With that being said, as far as a single ballistic missile being, absolutely, as soon as I'm done, sir. With that being said, as far as the ballistic missile goes, a single ballistic missile threat, I think, David Sling has no problem taking that sucker out. It's going to have under 2 minutes in order to make that determination, depending on where it's being fired from, and whether or not it's going to be able to get shot down in the sky. The real threat for these ballistic missiles is going to be a coordinated attack. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Joa, go ahead, please. I don't know who's, but
yeah.
I believe that was directed at Joa. Was that correct, Matt?
I'll just report the missile. It looks like it was intercepted, and 5 minutes ago, at least, the health authority says that so far they have not received a single call relating to this missile.
Thank you for that.
To keep the other argument honest, right? 1977, Likud wrote that as their manifesto. They kept expanding into the West Bank. They were expanding into Gaza. They created Hamas. They created a resistance in response to what was happening. And you're saying, hold on, Eyal, let me finish.
Gentlemen, please.
Let me finish.
I'm apologies, gentlemen. Apologies, Joa. Apologies, Eyal. But we have to have one speaker at a time. It makes it just easier for our listening audience. I'm going to go to Joa, and if you want to counter him, feel free to raise your hand, and you certainly can, but one at a time, please. Joa, please finish your point. Thank you, sir.
I'll keep it very. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I'll keep it very short. Matt, you made the claim that one side was defensive and one side was offensive. If you speak to the Palestinian people whose homes got taken away, whose homes were burnt, children burnt alive, children shot, and things of that nature, I'd say they were very offensive, not just defensive, right? Of course, the other side's not being defensive. How can they be defensive when the IDF helps the settlers take their homes, right? It's not being honest when you try to paint one side as completely defensive and the other side offensive.
Yeah, there can never be peace without truth, and resistance movements are only created when there is something to resist against, and a legal occupation as determined by the ICC court. So if we want to be honest, intellectually honest means getting to why were these things created in the first place.
Okay, I have something to say, just real quick to counter that. Number one, when we talk about resistance movement, let's clearly define resistance movement, which would be done by tactics, techniques, and procedures. Targeting civilians, taking hostages, killing innocent people without a legitimate military target in sight is not a resistance movement. Those are terrorist tactics, plain and simple. That's why words have meaning. And Israel isn't dropping bananas on Lebanon right now. They're dropping bombs. So if we're going to call them a resistance movement, that's one thing. But let's make sure that we're properly defining the tactics, techniques, and procedures that they're using in order to conduct that warfare. Because what they are using in order to conduct it, and I can pull up pictures from the 2000s and beyond, and in numerous reported sites of children with knives crossing borders to go and conduct attacks on Israeli citizens as young as 8 years old. I can point out children wearing suicide vests that are being stopped by Israeli forces. Okay, these are not resistance movements.
But you're referring to the PLA, things.
Sir, I did not interrupt anybody else. PLA. Please let me finish. You are welcome to counter my argument as soon as I'm done. The co-host has clearly stated that. Please respect the space. Thank you. So again, all of this, okay, has been clearly stated and is clearly documented. And if we're going to have an intellectually honest conversation, we need to clearly define terms, okay? Resistance does not include terroristic tactics. That's a reason they are labeled on an international level as terrorist organizations. And you can argue the government standpoint on that all you would like. But the tactics, techniques, and procedures in which they use are terrorist tactics. Now, if they cut those out, then you can have an argument for a legitimate resistance or guerrilla warfare. But what they are doing is not guerrilla warfare, and it is not resistance. It's using terrorism in order to advance a political or ideological agenda. Period. Plain and simple. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad we agree.
Simon,
that by that standard, Israel.
Simon,
is between us.
Just a moment, Joa. Just so that I'm very clear. Joa, I'll let you counter, and then Matt, if you have a response. But I do want to bring Colonel Jeff in here. He's waited very patiently. Thank you so much, Colonel Jeff. I will get to you after Joa and Matt are through going back and forth. But please go ahead, Joa. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, here's what happens is Israeli soldiers and settlers have been have killed innocent Palestinians, right? And they've actually targeted them. They targeted an American journalist. They ran over an American with a bulldozer. Even the March of Return, there was a IDF soldier that shot a boy, which started this whole war. How he was punished? He had 1 month community service, right? Except no one says the IDF are terrorists, right? No one paints all of them the same way, but you do that to Palestinians. You're like, little Palestinian boys are coming across with knives. They're terrorists. This is what you just said, right? So because of the action of a few, you paint them all the same, but you won't apply the same thing to Israelis. That's where I think you're not being intellectually honest if you apply the same standards to everyone. You can't look at the actions of the few and say they're all like that, but then you don't do it to the other side. Right.
And you have to get to the original aggression, because the original aggression, the largest original aggressor, is the United States, is Israel,
Simon,
is
let's
UK.
go to Matt.
It's a very dishonest.
We put that agreement. So Joe, Matt, please. Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys for co-hosting this space. So yes, to be intellectually honest, we can look at independent situations like that, and we can say that those things are wrong, and they have been prosecuted, they've been investigated as such. Is anybody on this panel other than myself and probably Colonel Jeff and the gentleman named Staff Sergeant Robert Bales? If you are, give me a thumbs up. If you're not, give me a thumbs down. I don't care. So I see Colonel Jeff puts his hand up. He can put his thumb up. I don't see any other thumbs up coming across the panel. Staff Sergeant Robert Bales was an American soldier inside of Afghanistan that left his forward outpost and murdered, I believe it was 17 or 19 Afghan civilians in the middle of the night. He lit multiple of their bodies on fire. He ends up getting thrown in jail, so on and so forth. Just because we have documented cases of this, and by the way, he's not the only one during the U.S.'s global war on terror that has done such acts like that. We also have numerous other instances of that taking place across Iraq. So, with that being said, you are absolutely right when you talk about the bulldozer incident and so on and so forth. However, when we start talking as a whole, the tactics in which a group uses, we can start being intellectually honest that the tactics as a whole of Hamas are that of a terroristic nature, and the tactics used by Israel are that of an actual military. You are always going to have civilian casualties. It's always going to occur in warfare. Not a single war. Excuse me, sir. Again, I did not interrupt. If you don't stop interrupting, I'm going to ask the co-host to drop you from the panel, because you seem to have a very big problem with doing that whenever I make something that hurts your feelings or is counter to your point of view. So please stop interrupting me. At all times, you are going to have civilian casualties. It's going to occur in warfare. And when we point them out on the Israeli side, and we refuse to take into context the amount of civilian casualties that Hamas and Hezbollah have both caused on the Israeli and the Palestinian side, we are not being intellectually honest. Hamas on a daily basis launches rockets and mortars, which are unguided, off of humanitarian aid bags, off of improvised rocket launchers, or out of mortar systems that do not have sights attached. And these are indirect fire weapon systems, meaning that they are not capable of seeing their intended target. And in order to properly utilize those weapon systems, you must have the proper sights. In order to even be remotely accurate, I mean coming within a kilometer of your intended target. For people to paint the Israelis as being responsible for every single casualty inside of Gaza is not only intellectually honest, it is outright lying.
Joa?
Can I reply once again?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, Joa, I want to turn it over to Colonel Jeff. Go ahead, please, sir.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I mean, look, what America does is correct, right? When you have someone who I consider an American terrorist went and shot up a village, or even that guy that went and raped a bunch of women in Iraq, they were tried and they went to jail. I think the guy who raped people went to jail for 25 years, right? America does the right thing. When you systematically have people who snipe innocent people and they get 1 month community service, that is not a sentence. That is not a punishment, right? It is
Joa,
not the same thing America does.
Push back a tiny little bit because maybe I need some education here. You said that when soldiers, they're getting a 1 month community service. Where did that happen, sir?
In Israel. I can put it in the nest if you want to see.
Yes, I would love to see that, or you can put it in our comments for our audience. But please, yes, post that in the comments.
Many times they get extremely light sentences. Sometimes don't even go to jail. That to me is a systematic way of encouraging your soldiers that, hey, you can get away with murder and not really pay much of a price. If it happened in the US, the guy would be serving life, right? And that's the difference, right? Is the way of this treatment. I agree that there are war crimes happening with Hamas. I agree that the mortars that are sent and the bombs are unguided, and that is against the laws of conflict and a war crime. But I also point out to the war crimes of Israel that people seem to think Israel walks on water and doesn't commit war crimes, when everyone else around the world, except for the US, calls them out for the war crimes. And that's my problem, Matt, is that if a US soldier did that, he would be punished. In Israel, they're not. They get a slap on the butt. And then they also commit war crimes, but no, they walk on water. And I think that's where we need to be intellectually honest. And when you first said it the first time, I was really hoping to have an honest dialogue, but it seems like you're starting to turn to the side of where Israel walks on water again.
No, sir, I'm not. I'm actually trying to do my best to be intellectually honest. So in the past, the Gaza Health Ministry has been within just a few percentage points during every single conflict, which has been like internationally verified. Yet for some reason, people like to say that the current tally of just over 41,000 is somehow inaccurate and it should be somewhere near 200,000. Okay, the fact is that in the past, regardless of the way that they go about actually collecting those numbers, which currently to this day is in three different ways. They get it through hospitals, they get it through independent, like families actually reporting it on their website. I know, I've gone over, I've tried it, it does work. And they've also done it through, and I quote, reliable media sources. Either way, I can't question it as long as they're within a few percentage points in a previous conflict. So I have no reason to believe, other than what I just stated, that the current numbers they're reporting are accurate. Now, here's facts. They have not distinguished whether or not. Hey, sir, again, here we go again with me being interrupted every time I make something that's counter your point. Please stop.
I want you to answer correctly.
Hey, stop, dude. I am, and you're not letting me stop. You're interrupting me again. So again, I'm going to ask the co-host if you continue to interrupt to get dropped from the panel. It's absolutely
I want you both to be able to go back and forth. I don't think he was interrupting, sir. I think he was trying to clarify, but please continue.
Okay, and he is allowed to clarify.
Matt, go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. So look, here are the facts. The number right now is fairly accurate if we're going to take into the account that the Gaza Health Ministry has been accurate in the past, and to this day I have no reason to believe otherwise. That's 41,000. Now, they have not, and it is a fact, delineated between whether or not they've died of natural causes, whether or not they've died as a result of Hamas fire, or whether or not they have died as a result of IDF. With that being said, you take the attrition rate into account. The way that humans have passed away of natural causes inside of Gaza, it averages out to about 8,000 per month. Okay, so number one, that number is going to be included within that count. Number two, we also have to take Hamas into account. Hamas is comprised of 100% inside of Gaza of Palestinians, of people who are going to have their freaking ID numbers and all of that crap within the Gaza Health Ministry for them to take account of. Now, we know from a document that the IDF released of a battalion level commander inside of Khan Yunis back in freaking, I want to say it was like August, or just actually, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, that Hamas is operating at about 50% capacity. About 50% of them have either been KIA or WIA, and that only about 25% of them are still in action because another 25% deflected, or essentially like basically gave up and laid down their arms and have just decided they're not going to play anymore. So with that being said, you can put that number right around with the pre-war estimates of Hamas's strength of between 35 to 40,000. You can take a median average and you can say, okay, so around 18,000 of the casualties inside of Gaza are Hamas. Then you add on the fact that this war has been going on for over 10 months and the average attrition rate for like your average civilian death rate, okay, of about 1,000 per month. So we'll add 10,000 onto that. That brings it to 28,000. All right. So when we have less than, about 12,000, you've got less than a 1-to-1 average civilian to combatant ratio. Just using logic, it is absurd to call it a war crime. It is absurd to say that they're indiscriminately bombing because the facts don't speak for themselves when you do your own independent research. Thank you very much.
Sarah, can I reply?
Joa, yes, go ahead, please. And then Joa, if you could just be, make your point in about a minute so I can get to Colonel Jeff.
Yeah, the reason I was trying to clarify is because I'm not even talking about the conflict now. I was talking about the March of Return. I was talking about the American journalist Shireen, where the Israeli firm called Forensics Architects actually showed that they had 6 shots directed at her head within line of sight and knew she was a journalist. I'm talking about multiple cases where things like this happen and they don't get punished. I'm not even talking about now, right? I was bringing up the evidence that shows that the IDF does not get punished the same way an American soldier does. They get a pat on the back, a pat on the butt. The one that sniped the child that started the whole March of Return, he got 1 month community service. The person who shot Shireen, the American journalist, he got nothing. The one that recently shot the protester, which also is under a forensic evidence that it was a direct sniper shot to her and they targeted her in line of sight, also got nothing. The person that ran over Rachel Corrie, who's also an American, not once, but twice, they backed up to make sure she was dead. They also got nothing, right? That's what I'm talking about. The cases over and over and over that if it happened in America, these people would be in prison because we are not a terrorist organization. Yet Israel almost allows this to happen. So what do you call them then?
Matt, would you like to respond?
Yeah, sure. And I'm walking over my airplane, so I apologize for the background noise. Again, this is why I'm allowed to openly state these things. I don't agree with 100% of what the Israeli Defense Force does, but he's talking about very isolated incidences versus an actual TTP overall. The fact that Israel is prosecuting him is great. If he can point to me a single case of anybody in Hamas that has been prosecuted for strapping a bomb to a child or putting a rifle in the hands of somebody, at the age of 14 years old, I would love to see it. I really would. I really, really would. And of course it doesn't exist. But what I can point to, correct, because they're using terrorist tactics.
Because
the IDF as a whole is not. Because they are terrorists.
We don't call Israel
Stop interrupting me, dude.
But we don't call Israel the same.
Dude, stop interrupting me.
Just, okay.
Like, does me speaking hurt your feelings to the point that you have to interrupt me? Like, are you not allowed to hear somebody else's point of view or opinion or just hear facts that are counter to yours? What's wrong with you, man?
I have I'm gonna go back to the news. The debate and like the general logic is that Joa believes that the repercussion or the when someone in the Israeli army does a mistake, he's not persecuted to the right level, and that's why that's something that hurts him. Not hurts him, but where he considered it's unfair and inhumane. While on the other hand, Matt considers that they are doing enough faced with groups that have no policy, no follow-up to the policy or to any rule of law. And they are trying to do their best in this situation with specificity. So I'm just giving the way both arguments are going and the direction both of those are going. A very good.
Yeah, and he diverted it to Hamas, James. That's the issue and why I jumped in. He diverted to Hamas, which is recognized as a terrorist organization. Israel's not when it does the same.
Thank you. I want to go back to the news. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Joa, for that very interesting debate because it's very interesting. And then I'm going to go to Colonel Jeff about a specific point after going through the news because a lot of news have came out. So this morning, for the people that are following the Lebanese news, one of the biggest prisons in Lebanon, in Jizin, which is the one of the largest prisons in the south, had a jailbreak. More than 250 people escaped the jail. The situation is under control. There is a couple of more fugitives that are at large that will probably be caught in the next couple of hours. So the military and the police are following and tracking on those people for the moment. That's news number one. News number two, Israel has restruck the Dahya for the first time in a couple of hours. We have had, as we heard from Jonsine, a couple of direct assassination. We had the strike on Haifa and the situation in Haifa that was detected with the ballistic missile. We had reports on stage saying that it did not land and that it was intercepted, with reports from Israeli media validating that. More and more information are coming about the death of Hassan Nasrallah. The body of Hassan Nasrallah of the martyr Hassan Nasrallah came out. So I'm reading from a quote, and that's not me. The pure body of the martyr Hassan Nasrallah was taken out from under the rubble. The body is untouched and unhurt. So people are saying that this showcase or this shows that he died from the initial waves of the explosion. Also, we are getting reports of more and more rockets and drones being prepared, more and more fear from, not fear, but preparation from the US, and being on high alert for attacks on the bases in Syria and in Iraq. We had reports yesterday that in this situation, the coalition, the American coalition, did strike a couple of targets in Syria and in the region. That's what I wanted to come to with you, Colonel Jeff. So any information about that situation, and where do you think this might go? Do you think with the intensity of the fighting going up, those bases are more and more at risk? And how would the American have to deal with this situation in order to minimize the hit?
Yeah, hey, so thanks for bringing me up. I appreciate it. Look, you know, the shock blast death of Nasrallah, I think that's, you know, somewhat interesting. It's really hard to get, you know, through 14 layers, because as I understand from Mario reporting earlier, you know, he was 14 floors below ground in a hardened bunker. It's really hard to get that deep. So and the other problem is once bombs start blowing up underground, the shock waves don't dissipate, right? They bounce off the walls and they bounce down, and so there's a lot of stuff that causes challenges there. I listened to the earlier arguments between Joa and Matt, and you know what I try to point out to people is, look, I realized for years there was some value in the armchair quarterbacks kind of talking about, you know, well, there's this many civilian deaths and this many casualties, and it was a tit for tat between whether it was Hamas or Hezbollah and Israel. We go back and forth, right? And look, so you believe that this can that you still have some effect, and the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter anymore, people. Right? You can talk about all the civilian deaths that you want to talk about right now, but the calculus has changed. Israel struck Hezbollah 3 times before Hezbollah responded. This is no longer tit for tat, right? It's just not. And so Joe, when you want to talk about civilian casualties and who's a terrorist and who's not a terrorist, you could do that, but you're talking in a vacuum. It doesn't matter you're not going to change the calculus in Israel. It doesn't matter. You could sit there and talk about, you know, the numerous casualties that happened when Nasrallah was killed, but the simple truth of the matter is Israel going into the Hamas tunnels and proving out that they connected to hospitals, being able to destroy and kill Nasrallah, who was clearly, you know, 14 stories underneath an apartment complex. It's very clear that there are war crimes going on. But the problem is neither you or Simon want to admit the true war crime. The true war crime is they are literally hiding among the civilians. So if you truly want to be upset about this and you're truly angered by the deaths of civilians, where's your battle cries against the Hamas, or where's your battle cry against Hezbollah? I mean, shouldn't you have these people rising up that are Lebanese and saying, why is this shit happening? And you get your compound, get your headquarters, get your ammunition dumps out of my apartments and put them in military bases like Israel does. I mean, we have to be a little, you know, you keep saying you want to be intellectually honest, and the truth is I'm not sure you're there. So calling Matt out for that seems a little disingenuous.
And I reply, since I was mentioned, Colonel, I have called out Hamas and Hezbollah. I think anytime civilians are targeted, not casualties, targeted, is a war crime and is a terrorist action, in my point of view. I have called them all out. My issue is with the fact that Israel's doing the same thing and doesn't get called out and gets U.S. money. So when you say you're not calling out the other side, Colonel, you're very wrong. I have constantly done it. Just go look at my timeline, right? My issue is the fact that Israel does the same thing and doesn't get called out for it. And so, people come up on top here and make it seem like they walk on water.
Okay, fair. Can I ask you a question then? Because I didn't check your timeline, and that if that's the case, then that's fair, right? So, of the civilian deaths that just happened when Nasrallah was killed, okay, so that was the target, and I think you know, given you're well spoken, I think you and I can both agree that the first casualty in any war is always the innocent and the civilians, right? So the innocent civilians that were killed during that strike, is that considered, in your mind, is that considered a war crime? Or would that be considered, okay, yeah, they went after a target and this is and I hate the term, right? I'm a military guy. I hate the term acceptable collateral damage.
Yeah, Colonel, I totally understand. It's not easy to speak about. What I said earlier on the panel before you were up here was when America did it in Mosul, there was 11,000 deaths, right? And it's about the same size in terms of population as Gaza, right? But we're seeing very different numbers in Gaza. And my issue with Israel is they use war, like they do operation with a sledgehammer, basically is the analogy I say. And when Russia did it in Syria, America came out and called them war criminals because they used bunker bombs in a city. Well, Beirut is 5 times as populated in terms of density as Aleppo is. Yet they support Israel for doing the same exact action Russia did, but they don't call out Israel for doing it. And that's my problem with it. Nasrallah is a valid target, right? It's the enemy combatant. He leads the rebellion against them or the militia against them, whoever it is. That's a value target. I have an issue with the armaments they use to get him because America would not do it that way, right? And we even had American soldiers up here who said, no, America would not do it that way. They don't follow the same rules as America does. And that's what I mean. I feel like Israel has a disregard for any life but their own. And I don't want to be sending funds to a country that reacts like that.
That's it. And Joe, if you don't mind me countering.
So why,
Colonel?
So let me explain. Let me kind of explain. When the United States was challenging the way in which Russia was dropping bombs in Aleppo, you keep saying they dropped, or you just said that they dropped these glide bombs. You know, and let's be fair. What kind of guidance systems do you think they have JDAM kits on their glide bombs? I mean, the problem that the United States was trying to point out was these are dumb bombs. I mean, when the United States is the point where we could either drop a bomb with laser guidance, right, AGMs, Payboy 1, 2, or 3, or we could drop GPS guided munitions with JDAM. We actually can put bombs within anywhere from 3 to 6 meters through a window. And so when the United States calls out Russia for using Su-24 fencers and dropping FAB-Ts, which are 5,000-pound bombs, right? And that's Russia's strategy, right? Russia's strategy is, well, with 5,000-pound bombs, we're sure we're going to get probably within about a half mile of our target, and within a half mile of our target, with 5,000 pounds, we should be able to destroy it. So that is indiscriminate targeting in modern warfare. If this was World War II and you want to talk about, B-17s and daylight precision bombing, okay, you got me, right? Because those were, bombs, or those were dumb bombs. But we're not at that point. And that's why the United States was critical of Russia. There is a clear difference. You do get that, right?
I don't think there is, Colonel, because even Amnesty International came out and they had specialists, and they also hired forensic architecture, which is an Israeli firm, to analyze what was going on with the bombs that Israel was using, and they show over 2,000 times they used unguided bombs, right? And the reply was, oh, but we used our jets to aim them. That was their answer, right? Which is also still not legal.
I said Russia. You were talking about Russia and Aleppo. So you said, okay, so we're talking about Russia and Aleppo with FAB-Ts, which are 5,000-pound bombs, okay? And then you got to be careful because you just diverted back to Israel using dumb bombs, okay, which are, by the way, were Mark 84s or Mark 82s, which are only 500-pound bombs. And yes, there is a computer called WICMID targeting that will actually drop a hammer and put the targeting. And to be fair, 500 pounds is a little bit different than 5,000 pounds in Aleppo. All right. So you can't conflate a 5,000-pound bomb that literally has no guidance system, and the computer that's coming off the Su-24 fencer is about like throwing a lawn dart in a circle after having 3 beers in your backyard barbecue, versus actually the WICMID, which is actually, I can't remember the acronym, but it's actually even wind corrected dropping targeting bomb. And by the way, when we do Gunsmoke or we do any kind of competition, whether it's an A-10, F-16, F-35, doesn't matter, we actually practice. And usually you can drop these things very, 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 very
90%, I'll say 90% of the time within 30 meters, okay? 30-meter radius. That's pretty good. That's way better than a half a mile with 5,000 pounds.
Hey, if you don't mind me jumping in, because I do have a counterpoint for something that Joe has said. He said go over and check his profile in order to get kind of like, I guess, essentially an idea of what he has to say and how he counters everything. So I'm going to go ahead and quote his profile from yesterday. He said a 2,000-pound bomb doesn't just leave a mark. It's like dropping a small earthquake in the middle of a neighborhood. Buildings crumble, the earth shakes, and anything within that radius is reduced to dust and debris. The shockwave alone can knock people down a mile away in either direction, and the shrapnel, lethal. Now, I bring this up to make a very specific point, that you don't know what you are talking about because the shockwave alone cannot knock people down from a mile away. For those that don't know, a mile translated into kilometers is 1.62 kilometers. And while he sits there and laughs, I can tell you that I've personally eaten a 2,000-pound bomb from 350 meters away, hiding behind a rock off the ground that sits about 1.5 feet high. And while the debris and the dust cleared, I had a chunk of metal laying next to me, smoking hot, at only 350 meters away. Now, had I not been behind the rock, sure, could have killed me. But at the end of the day, it's not knocking people over a mile away. Additionally, a 2,000-pound bomb is not 2,000 pounds worth of explosives. Welcome to Speaking with Actual Experts. It's filled with just over 900 pounds worth of an explosive. When converted by RE factor, a relative explosiveness factor, comes out to right around 980 pounds worth of an explosive. Now, when we talk about whether it's going to be point detonated, delayed detonation, or it's going to be freaking buried into the ground or freaking above in a proximity type fuse, that directly determines the type of freaking blast wave that's going to come off of it. And if you want to talk about propagation waves, I am glad to have that discussion with you as well. But the fact is, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're speaking from a level as if you do, and you just don't. All right? A 2,000-pound bomb does not knock people over from a mile away. I've stood at a mile away very comfortably and not even felt the blast of a 2,000-pound bomb. So stop lying to people.
I want to add something.
Matt, what is the shockwave radius of a 2,000-pound bomb? 800 meters, right? 800 meters.
No, it depends if it's airburst. If it's detonated
air or underground.
Oh, okay. I'm using the maximum, which is 800 meters. You double 800 meters, you practically have a mile. That's why I said that. It is a mile.
Okay, and feeling...
Right? And you're trying to make it seem like I don't know what I'm talking about when I do. It's 800 meters. Go look it up if you don't know yourself, which you should know.
Okay, Joe, so what's the PSI? What is the actual PSI that's needed in order to produce some type of even mild traumatic brain injury? What is the PSI needed for that?
Yeah, I didn't say injury. I said knock someone down.
Okay, you said knock somebody down, and you're not knocking somebody down at 800 meters with a 2,000-pound bomb, I promise you, number one. Number two, the PSI is actually like 18 pounds per square inch, and you are not reaching that at 800 meters. Period, end of discussion. You are not injuring people at 800 meters.
I didn't say it did.
So again, stop being intellectually dishonest and lying to people. No, you said you knocked them over at a mile.
Yeah,
that is a lie. You said it knocks them over at a mile. That is a lie. You are not even causing an MTBI at 800 meters with 900 pounds worth of that type of explosive. It's just bullshit.
So, okay, good work. Once again, let's just go back to the news for a second, and then I'll get you back in. But I want to get some other people that just joined us or have their hands up so we can continue the discussion just after that. First, for the news, so the explosion that we talked about inside of Dahya, it seems to be the explosion of generator or a power unit that exploded in one of the streets of Dahya due to everything that's been happening. It made a bit of fire and a very big sound. So for the people in Dahya, you guys can be quite just be safe around this subject. Other information that we got. So in the last couple of hours, the situation. There's some explosion that are being heard in Deir ez-Zor in Syria. So in Deir ez-Zor, there's two sections. There is a section where the IRGC sets up, and there is another section where it's the Americans on the border of that Deir ez-Zor. So Deir ez-Zor is at the border between Israel and Iraq, Syria Syria and Iraq. Sorry. This situation is getting a bit out of control. We got also reports saying that the Iranian president went on and gave a speech saying that the United States and Europe claimed that a ceasefire in Gaza would be reached if Iran delayed the response to Ismail Haniyeh's assassination. They lied. So he is coming out and calling out the coalition, the international coalition, about their inability to support or to get an actual ceasefire going, even after they promised Iran that if they do not shoot at Israel in response for the Ismail Haniyeh strike, they would get a ceasefire in Gaza. The last point that we got is the Russian Prime Minister is going to meet the Iranian's president after Nasrallah's killing. Russia's Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin will meet Iranian's president in Tehran on Monday after Israel killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. Talks will cover trade, energy, and joint projects as concerns grow over Russia aiding Iran's nuclear program in exchange for ballistic missiles used in Ukraine. The West fears escalation ties between Moscow and Tehran. So that's from Times of Israel. So to give you the source, it's normal to have those fears on that level. I'm gonna go to Dr. Usama and Jassim, who haven't talked yet on the stage. So Dr. Usama is someone who is in Lebanon on the ground. He would like to give a small statement, and then we can go to Jassim after that. Hello, Dr. Usama.
Yes, hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mario, for this great space. Thank you, James. Thanks for everyone spoke or will speak. First of all, I heard the negotiations. Please let us not forget. You are speaking. If you are blaming about the collateral damage from killing that guy, please don't forget that this guy is responsible for the killing of more than 1 million person in Syria. 1 million person in Syria, and his war resulted in a 20 million refugees. In a 20, please don't forget that. Please don't forget that. Don't count 10 or 15. Don't compare, please. For 1 million, including 300 million child. 300 million child killed in Syria. He was the guy responsible for killing them. Please don't forget that. But I want you to say something. What is striking is that no demonstration took place in any Arab or Islamic country in solidarity with Hezbollah and in protest for the killing of its Secretary General, which means that all he has bragged about for years and years is that the people of the Arab world support the idea of resistance, and that what he was claiming was that his support for Gaza brought down Sunni anger at him for the crimes he committed in Syria and the rest of the Arab countries against the people of those Sunni countries. The people of those countries did not forget him, did not forgive him. And this is inevitable end for every criminal and the just retribution he deserves. And the new generations in the Arab world are more for...
Osama, can I ask you a quick question
yes,
about just a question? Let's go to the sentiment. So you are part of the Sunni community in Lebanon. You've been involved in the political wing of the Sunni parties back in the day and until now. So what is the sentiment inside of that section of the Lebanese community? Because to make it clear to everyone about your position and why you're pushing that position.
The Sunni community they are all saying that he took what he deserves for his criminals that he made and his guys made in Syria. Killing one is floated by 3 million refugees resulted from the war he made, from the killing of 1 million person. Please, this is not a small number. It's not a small number.
So, and let me just ask a final question. Thank you for being with us, Osama. What do you think is the next steps moving forward for the Lebanese community and the people? You are in Lebanon, so you are on the ground. But what's the steps in the next steps for the Lebanese community and the Lebanese?
We all are hoping that Nabih Berri will redirect the position of our brothers from the Shia community and will make them again Lebanese, make them back to the Lebanese interest and not the Iranian interest, and reach an agreement that will bring peace for Lebanon, and send the Lebanese army to the south and give the Lebanese army all the authorities to control all of Lebanon. We hope that.
Thank you, Osama. I appreciate that.
Just on that, I don't think we've got anybody on the panel to give the other perspective, so I'll just slightly give the other perspective, just so there's a bit of balance rather than just being one-sided propaganda. So his position is the position that's held by a number of Sunnis, generally speaking, because the rebellion that happened in Syria, there's a number of Sunnis who are basically against the position of Bashar, but this isn't a monolith position within the Sunni community, even though it is generally the majority opinion. There's people who are even Sunni, such as myself, for example, who think that the rebellion in Syria was something that's not permissible, both from a religious perspective and also disagreed with it from a political perspective. We believe it was basically an orchestrated rebellion by the West that wanted to cause an upheaval and destruction in that country to basically destroy Syria for foreign nations such as Israel. And Syria's destruction has opened that pathway for Israel to act in that manner. So I just wanted people to see the other perspective. I know the debate's not about Syria, but he spent about 99% of the time talking about it. So just so people understand the other perspective. But he is right. The vast majority of Sunnis do have an issue with Bashar for sure. They're against him in that regard, even though I disagree with him, both from a religious perspective and a political perspective, because I believe religiously there's a lot of narration saying that's not permissible. And then politically, I believe that there was major issues with it as well.
Thank you, Suri. So the next person that was on the list before we move along was Jassim, new to the stage. If you could introduce yourself and give us a bit of your background, and then I see you're Kuwaiti, and then what is your opinion about what happened in the last couple of days and where we are going in terms of geopolitical development in the region?
Let me give you a background about Jassim real quick, because a lot of people don't know. He's a former politician who ran for the Shura Council in Kuwait and got persecuted for his opinions and jailed and had to run away and apply for asylum in the West to survive. But he is very well informed and and considered to research journalist when it comes to the Middle East.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you so much for this interview and this introduction. I just wanted to thank you guys for having me on the panel. Hi, James. Hi, Suleiman. Hi, Mario. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to, agree with the labeling that I think Joa has labeled the other opinions as propagandist. I would ask him to, allow the other side to bring their logic sense and their political analysis, and then let's have a debate on that rather than labeling. So let me just start with this. Lebanon.
I didn't call them propaganda. It wasn't me.
Sorry, not you, Joa. Sorry, maybe somebody else. It's my bad. But someone has said it, and we don't agree. We don't agree to this. But let me just start off with this. Everybody who's following the situation that is going on now in Lebanon, just read what is the Arabian League says. The one who lifted Hezbollah from the from the criminal militia political group. They've been removed from their list, and they said nothing to whatever happening there. So I wanted just to let you know that there is something going on. There's something going on now in the spectrum of under the table discussions about the situation in Lebanon. That's number one. Number two, which I mean by that there's a huge agreement with Israel on what they're doing in the region. Number two, Israel wants a safe zone from all the threats that comes from South Lebanon. And the leaders of Lebanon themselves, they don't have any disagreements to that. I didn't encounter a disagreement that has been brought to the international panel and talked about what Israel is doing in Lebanon, because it's an unprecedented opportunity for them to start a new era without Hezbollah. And Lebanon wants to start off by, they want to again give the central government the power to rule on their soil, rather than having two army within the same borders. And then here comes the conflict. So the leaders are not, they're very smart. They don't want to start a civil war in Lebanon. Let's remember that there are around 35% of the official Lebanese army is from the Shia faith, and they're and they are on the same page of Hezbollah and their militia. So it's very complex to see what is going on and what Israel is playing in that area. So it's an unprecedented opportunity at this point of time, and everyone wants to score a political gain on this. Another thing is the Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia were always the country who's behind Lebanon ever since Al-Hariri was in power. After Hezbollah killed Al-Hariri, and they blame the Syrians for it. There is a huge speculation around this, but the Saudi Arabia now, they didn't say a word about what is happening there, but reiterating the reiteration of the two-state solution, which is, I think another rhetoric, diplomacy that is not going to take them anywhere. Lastly, if you just go around, I always recall Golda Meir speech where she said something very, very touchy. Today, it makes a lot of sense to read it. Golda Meir. Yeah.
I want to try to redirect a bit. I get the perspective, the way you're trying to go with the discussion. I want to try to go into where we are today and how we're moving forward. So with the death of Hassan Nasrallah, the structure of Hezbollah has been obviously weakened in a way because of the presence of that person. So you always have a person that's usually not bigger than the entity, but very, very reliably positioned that pulls people in. We're seeing that the some people in the Shia community have already moved forward, not moved forward, but accepted the death and are moving forward. And we're seeing that the entirety of the Axis militias, so Iraq, the ones that are in Lebanon, the Yemenis, has started increasing a bit their attacks on Israel from different perspectives with different weapons. What is the position of the Arab coalition, so Saudi, Kuwait, UAE, about those moves, and how will they be able, with their new connections to Iran, to maintain a certain level of stability in the region? Because that's what they care about technically.
Well, look, you're talking about the stability of the GCC region, where Kuwait is in the middle of three big countries, Saudi, Iraq, and Iran. And then you see the Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, they have also they have disagreements about this file, by the way. The Emirates, they wanted to promote Abraham Accords again, and the Saudi Arabia is saying this policy is not matching my political gains and my pragmatic movements in the region, and they want to go with the Arabian, peace initiative, with the two-state solution back to 1967, which is not scoring any goals for them. So in the GCC, especially, in Kuwait, for example, Hezbollah is on the terror list. In Saudi Arabia, Hezbollah is on the terror list. For Qatar, is the same case. If you have any ties with this militia group, you'll be in jail in Kuwait. You'll be in jail in Qatar. You'll be in jail in Saudi Arabia. And they have also forbidden anyone. They've stopped any single word that praises Hassan Nasrallah after his death within the Saudi Arabia. Now, it's a dictatorship, and there are a lot of disagreements around this. Yes and no, because they don't want to have also another chaos that's going on in Saudi Arabia, and they don't have any tolerance with the militia groups now around the region. They are worried about the Al-Houthis' position. That, if I may say, they are worried about the Houthis' position. They're saying that if Hassan Nasrallah is dead and the GCC and the Arab League did not issue any statements to condemn the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, they said we are ready to create the chaos, and they are the last proxy geopolitic support to Iran, to the Islamofascists in Iran in the region. So Israel now started to channel their rockets and missiles to Aden, to even the Hodeidah port. So there is a complexity when it comes to, okay, let's just discuss Lebanon and what is happening in Lebanon and ignore the Houthis at this moment. No, both are connected, and Khomeini is doing it very well. Everyone is like fighting each other and killing each others within the region, and Iran. I never seen any killing people. I don't see he's sending troops. I've seen the Canadian government have sent troops to Lebanon right now to evacuate the Canadians and to support the Lebanese in their fight. France did the same thing. I didn't see anything that is happening from Iran's side or from the Islamofascist regime in Iran. So the GCC, the stance. Just last sentence. I'm sorry.
I wanted to tell you so we can go to the last speakers. Looking at the news.
Sure. I'm sorry for taking a long time to respond, but it's really it's very complex, to discuss these things. But the last sentence that I wanted to say, just watch the Arabian League leaders responding to Hezbollah's death, responding to the Hezbollah's weakening project. Just look at the Lebanese leaders. Just see how happy the Lebanese are everywhere around Lebanon. And whoever is like praising Hezbollah, they had a lot of privileges, which is unfair advantages around that spectrum of having money, having power without even any ties to the central government of Lebanon. I wish Lebanon a safe journey through this, and Israel is taking now surgical steps towards eliminating the terrorism in the region, and we are backing Israel to finish the terrorism. At least let's agree with Israel in this file, and then disagree with the other files. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for that, Jassim. I want to go to Joa to try and give some balance. Joa, do you want to jump in and respond? Joa, you there?
Sorry, I was looking at other stuff, so I was reading some news from The Lancet. I don't know if you've seen it already. I'll share it with you before announcing.
The 600,000? I already read that already, that the projected figures of the number of people dead in Gaza is 600,000. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, no, I've read that already. But what's your thoughts on that? Because I wanted to balance, because Jassim spoke for a very long time. We had the other Syrian guys speak for a long time. At least when I'm on stage, I like a bit of balance. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't listening because I was reading that. It's, The Lancet is the world's oldest medical journal, probably one of the most respected. Recently just said the total deaths and indirect deaths from this war will likely reach almost 600,000 people, which is absolutely heartbreaking.
Thank you, Joe. I'm gonna go just quickly for a final point.
Can I respond to this?
Oh, sorry, Ayal?
I want to address the issue of the numbers because it keeps coming up.
Oh my God. Then you know what? Because we've not had anyone from the other side, I'll respond to what Jassim said because he spoke for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of it was propaganda. A lot of it was fit. But the problem is we've got nobody on the panel from the other side. So like, I know when I'm not on the panel, it doesn't be like that. But when I'm on the panel, I always like it balanced. I like it one from each side speaking for the similar amount of time. Now, what happens is, Eyal, you stay quiet when for someone from the Israeli side speaks for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And as soon as somebody from the other side speaks, even makes 1 second of a comment, you want to respond.
That's not true,
It is like that. It's literally what's happened. Jassim spoke for like 30 minutes.
Joel was speaking about the numbers of casualties many minutes ago, and I'm holding the numbers in my.
Okay.
I can't hear if someone's speaking. By the way,
no one's speaking right now. Hazem, do you want to jump in with your thoughts?
Yeah, so I keep hearing, first of all, thank you for giving me the mic. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, as you may say. I'm on neither sides with my analysis. So
for the people.
Oh yeah, former State Department senior advisor. I have 2006 through 2016. I do a lot of TV, focused on the Middle East mostly and U.S. policy. But if you don't mind me just like taking the space back to the actual topic of the space, which is the pending or the potentially pending Israeli incursion into Lebanon. So here's what we know is on the table. Let's call it the small, medium, and deluxe packages. The small package would be a very limited incursion, probably few kilometers, to take out whatever left of Hezbollah, anything that is directly on the Israeli border, whether it's launch pads, tunnel network, commanders, whatever, low-hanging objectives, then pull back out. The medium package would be, actually, let me go to the deluxe package, which would be a large-scale occupation that is prolonged occupation, which may contain some nation-building aspects. That is the least likely option. The medium option is now becoming of interest. It's an occupation of a limited scale of certain areas in southern Lebanon, while the involved parties, specifically the U.S. and Israel, well, Israel through the U.S. as a mediating partner, would work a long-term solution with the Lebanese armed forces and sorry, that was a call, with the Lebanese armed forces and the Lebanese government. That is right now what becoming, or at least what we've been hearing is becoming a likely option. Not that it's confirmed by any measure, but there's some appetite for the option, or the small option at least to start with, which is a small incursion, kind of like an FAFO type of operation to see what would a reaction to a small operation be on Hezbollah side and potentially the Lebanese government side. The problem we're dealing with continuously is that the data is not there. We're not sure what the Lebanese government really wants to do or is willing to do. We're not sure what the other Shiite party in Lebanon, Amal, is interested in doing. And we are not absolutely certain what Hezbollah's current capabilities look like. So there is big appetite to figure out what the map looks like after the demise of Hassan Nasrallah and the ongoing operations. we're trying to figure out a way to get this done mainly, right, at this point, whether through a direct Israeli action or by trying to work with a very reluctant Lebanese government to figure out what they want and what they can accomplish on the ground at this point. However, my final thought is Hezbollah is done, whether through direct Israeli action, whether by involvement of the Lebanese government to just round up whatever left of Hezbollah. The party's gone, unless people like just pull out completely right now, which is very unlikely. But any sustained pressure for a few more weeks will end Hezbollah and forever, pretty much. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Right, guys. James, we're wrapping up, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna do a small like follow up of what
Go for it.
happened.
Go for it. Do your recap and then we'll wrap
Yeah,
it up.
so we're going for the final couple of thought about the day. So in the last 24 hours, as I started saying, we've seen less attacks from Israel on the Dahi and Beirut area, but as we heard from the journalists that came on stage, the south of Lebanon and the Bekaa is still being struck a lot. Some strikes happened in Syria, and the coalition, the U.S. European coalition that is in Syria, struck a couple of locations that hit a U.S. military base in Syria yesterday. With the contradicting views that we're seeing inside of the Arab world, specifically in the Levant, we're seeing a lot of people that are happy with the death of Hassan Nasrallah because of what he did, for example, to Syria, in Syria, and the situation and how it escalated. And at the same time, we have a lot of people that are completely not scared, but not happy with that. And they pushed, for example, the bridge in front of the Baghdad embassy yesterday. Following the ballistic strikes, another information from another element of the axis of resistance, Yemen had been shooting ballistic missiles toward Israel, and so Israel decided today in a joint mission, in a mission to take their airplanes, go strike couple of location. Inside of strike couple of locations inside of Yemen, and through that strike they destroyed 3 locations. The reports are saying we have 4 dead and couple of injuries, around 30 or 40 injuries. In terms of the situation inside of Israel, there has been continuous strike in the Naharaya, Haifa, and the Golan Heights region from Hezbollah towards Israel. Israel has added a new person to their coalition, a new parliamentary group, giving Netanyahu a bit more security when it comes to people leaving the government and breaking the coalition. This allows him to have a bit more freedom. That's what Israeli analysts have said that came onto the stage. We are still looking very closely at a possible ground invasion in Lebanon. Some conflict and some shooting happened cross-border this morning between Hezbollah militants and Israelis. Israelis are positioned very close to the border and are obviously preparing for some sort of incursion with the shaping operations that they are working on in the southern part of Lebanon. And then we have information of the Navy coming from international water and creating a blockade by sea, by land, because they destroyed all the passages between Lebanon and Syria and the northern part of Lebanon, and on the airport by controlling all the planes that come in and out of the airport. The situation is very volatile, so at any moment we could get an actual incursion, and at that moment we're going to reopen the space. We will close the space in a couple of seconds. What I want to pinpoint is that there is a newsletter that you can join that is pinned in the pinned tweet. You can check it. It has live coverage, it has information that comes up, and it's worked on by the entirety of the Marius team. And you can also join the Telegram channel where most of the citizen journalism information that we get is sent there. So here you go. Thank you everyone for being present. Sulaiman, I'll give you the last message before we close.
No, thanks for that, James. You just wrap it up. I appreciate you guys joining in. And just watch out for the alerts on Mario's page in case we have to start up emergency space. But anyway, appreciate you guys joining in. Appreciate you guys listening. And for sure, we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.